Here we go. Thank you for joining us. Today we are talking about discouragement. Have you ever felt discouraged? Are you feeling discouraged now? We're going to look at how discouragement can potentially be something that helps us in the long run. So please stay with us as we explore this question. Throw your questions into the chat and we'll respond to them, include you in the discussion. But discouragement, just a social media poll we did yesterday, something that people are dealing with. More people said they were discouraged right now than people that said they were encouraged, which was interesting. And nearly 100% of you said that you'd given up on some goal because of discouragement, things not going the way you thought. So a very real issue. We have got some people here that are going to share their insights into discouragement. We've got Dita, we've got Brooke, and we've got Brian. Thank you for joining us. Please share. Brian, how about you go first? When have you felt discouraged recently?
I'm someone that it does tend to affect a little bit through life. It's partly been my history, and but I'm learning more to look towards the Lord. But there always comes up some time when something will discourage, and I think this is something that some people would say, "Oh, you shouldn't be discouraged. It's a sin." But I don't. It's not really, because even the Lord Jesus felt discouragement at times, and he was perfect. He didn't sin. I felt it more recently, again with the different lockdowns, when you can't do the things that you want to do as easily as you can. Sometimes when money runs short, you feel a little bit, and you need to throw yourself on the Lord for his providing, because he said he will always provide. It's where we start to, like Peter walking across, when God called Peter to walk across the water towards him from the boat. Peter said, "Lord, shall I come to you?" And then while Peter's eyes are on the Lord, he was walking on the water quite safely. The moment he suddenly realized, "Hey, I'm walking on the waters and this is deep," and he looked off the Lord and looked around to the waters, then he started to sink. And the Lord grabbed Peter's hand. And even then in the Lord, you hear his comment, "Oh, you of little faith, how long," as he said at times, "how long must I be with you? How long must I endure?" Now that, and the Lord being perfect, that's a sense where the Lord felt that discouragement because they weren't putting their full faith in him. And he said that right near the end in Gethsemane. He said, "My heart is sorrowful in me, even unto death." And that was sharing his feelings as the human. He was 100% God and 100% man. But in that 100% man, there was the sense of discouragement in him too. So in some ways, when situations come like that, sometimes I do yield to it a bit. Occasionally I yield to panic. Occasionally I get really depressed, and then the Lord usually prompts me, and I have to bring it to him, and I have to sometimes just apologize and repent. "Lord, forgive me. I've turned to my own devices. I've lent upon my own understanding. Help me to realize that you are fully in control." And one thing that I've often gone back to, and I'll just quote a few verses, probably one of my favorite Psalms, which is one I pray over and over again, is Psalm 42. Pardon me while I put my glasses on. There's a few verses. It says, David starts out, "My soul thirsts for God, for the living God. When may I come and appear before God?" And then he says, "My tears have been my food day and night, while people keep asking me all day long, 'Where is your God?' So there's part of the answer to one of the question. Discouragement, it can be a choice, but it is also a natural thing. As I shared before, it is part of the human makeup that even the Lord Jesus had. But our choice is, how long do we allow it to be there? Do we let it make us bitter, or do we let it make us better? And
we'll just pause there. We'll keep going with our other guests, but we'll come back to some of those great insights soon.
That psalm, I'll just read a verse later.
Yeah, that'd be great. So we'll get back to hearing more about David in a moment. But Dieter, Brooke, anything that you're going through at the moment where you're feeling discouraged?
Is Dieter around? Does
Dieter's here, yep.
Yeah, do you want to go first, Dieter? I'll let you.
Yeah, I'm sure Dieter would love to.
Brooke, I'd actually like you to go first, if that's okay.
Are you sneak? Oh, look, yeah, I mean, there are days when, look, just at the start of the lockdown, I think I have to confess I kind of felt a little bit like, I kind of felt a little low and a bit like, oh, here we are again. And I didn't really fully recognize that it was discouragement at the time, but I think it was. And so that day I did spend the day a bit low, and I kind of had to really assess what was going on and just carefully walk through it without actually allowing the emotion of that to cause me to lash out at anyone or whatever. And look, I can't say that it was perfect, because I did feel like I was a little bit bitter with someone in the house, and so I had to say sorry that night, because they just didn't deserve it. It was just where I was at in my own self, and with that kind of closure of things and the way that things were going. So yeah, without saying too much, it was just kind of that whole thing of, oh, here we go again. Yeah. Back around it. So yeah.
Thanks, Brooke. Dieter.
Hi, Tom. Thanks for inviting me in this morning. Greatly appreciated.
That's great. Great to have you.
Have I felt discouraged about the lockdown? Absolutely. I mean, the beginning stages of starting a business, so that was sort of, a kick in the head.
Not great timing? No,
maybe next week would have been all right, but just for things that have sort of happened. My daughter was sick last week as well, admitted into hospital. It just, it all adds up. So I was a bit discouraged, and I kind of asked God, why again, in my quieter moments, whether it be frustration or just, I'm not one to go outside a lot, but I do like going outside. So that was a bit of a challenge as well, sort of not being able to, and then having the kids home from school, so homeschooling. Wife was at work, so I had not one kid but two kids to look after. One I can handle, two's just how do you level that out?
You were outnumbered.
Yeah, 2-1, and they're both under 6. So, but I think overall, the discouragement was just, what can I do to get rid of it? So when I started to feel discouraged, I'd put on some worship, just for a spirit of heaviness, put on a garment of praise, and those sort of things, which really helped me get through those times. And yeah, that's pretty much what I did.
Yeah.
But 4 p.m.'s looking mighty awesome.
Lockdown breaking. Yeah, good news.
Which is great.
Thanks for sharing that, Dieter. I think everyone's felt discouragement, to tell you the truth. And the social media poll said that the main reason people are feeling discouraged is when things don't work out the way they hope. They've got some great dream, and then it's dashed. And the danger of that is, of course, people can stop aiming for anything. You know, we love the story of the Olympian who's at their fourth Olympics and failed, and finally they win gold. But I think that's a rare thing. That's the exception to the rule, possibly. Many people don't see the success, no matter how often they keep getting up and keep trying. And so discouragement's a real thing.
I think one of the things I really appreciated about my studies in recent years was actually this false belief that society, particularly the Western society, has, that the harder you work, the more you get reward.
Yeah.
And that, you know, all you've got to do is just work harder. If it's not happening, you've just got to hustle more. And it's like this whole understanding that, you know, it's what you get what you give kind of thing. And I really appreciated like having my eyes open to that filter, because I had definitely been living by that. And it made me so much more merciful and look to others with that, like, hey, yeah, no, that's right. Some people just don't get planted in the same spot as others. And, you know, we see that all the time when we look a little deeper and go, actually, yeah, no, some people, it just happens because of circumstances around them. And so, yeah, like I just think that was an interesting kind of, oh, okay, yeah, no, that's right. That is a bit of a
realizing that
filter.
truth. That's amazing, because that can be the source of discouragement. We expect, oh, I'm doing all the hard work, but I'm not seeing the success. So if we have to live with discouragement at times, and as Brian was saying earlier, it's not something that we can avoid, and it's not something that's necessarily our fault many of the time. If we're to live with discouragement, is there a time when you've seen discouragement have a silver lining, being a helpful thing in the end?
I was just going to agree with Brooke on that too, because I've found that, the first few days of lockdown, you tend to get a little bit out of kilter and you're not quite sure. But I found in this time, and I mean, with I teach religious instructions, with that shut down at the schools, I've had extra time to myself to be able to get into the Word, to talk to the Lord, and actually to sleep. You get quite a bit more sleep, which has certainly been a benefit. So there is always, I could relate to that too, Dee. Yeah, but I actually have been able to, and you felt better for that. And again, it's that rest. I was just going to quote something the Lord said when the disciples were the people coming to feed. The Lord had fed the 5,000. They were back the next day. The disciples saying, well, Lord, what do we do? What do we do? They're back again. How can we feed them this time? And the Lord just says, no, come apart with me for a while. Be quiet and rest.
Yeah, there you go. It couldn't redirect our focus and give us some time to rest. Any other silver linings to discouragement, Dieter?
Silver linings to discouragement. That's a good one, Tom. I think discouragement is it's hard, I guess. If you've been spoken to throughout your life, you'll never amount to anything, or those sort of things are deep. So you go looking for something because you want that acceptance, and you want to be able to be encouraged and not discouraged. So you might go looking for a church or a group, or so for me, I found my courage and my identity in Christ. I tried drugs, I tried alcohol, I tried gang life. Been there, played that game. Doesn't work, doesn't help, leaves you where you are, if not worse. But what I found when I came to Christ, that my life had a purpose, my life had a promise, and I wasn't the same guy again. Um, I was born with a purpose. So every time I get discouraged, I go back to the Bible, or I put on some worship, or I message a mate, hey, look, I'm not feeling too good. Would you mind praying for me? And those sort of things have really helped me find me, if that makes sense. And, you know, I'm not perfect. I still get discouraged. That's because I'm human. But I take courage knowing that whatever I'm going through, it's going to be okay. Like, God's got it. He's got my back. He said that. Like, you know, I used to be the tail of life, but now I'm the co-heir with Christ. I don't have to worry. Like, lockdown is cool, but there's so much positive that we can take out of that time of lockdown. You know, extra time with the kids, jumping on the trampoline, like a 34-year-old jumping on a trampoline. Come on, Tom. It's awesome. Anyway, getting back into the garden, getting back into the roots, like, I don't see it as a time of hard times. Like, think about, we're blessed, you know, we might not be able to have that family over for the roast, but we get more.
True. What I'm hearing is discouragement in one area.
Yeah.
Divert our attention to something else. Brooke?
Sorry, popping my hand up in the old school way again. I was reading in the Word this week. David was praying, and he actually, like, in his talks with God, he was sort of saying, you know, Solomon is young and inexperienced, and then I realized, oh, that's exactly what Solomon brought to the Lord when he prayed. Lord, when he was actually made king, he was like, God, I'm young and inexperienced and I need your wisdom. And I thought, oh, isn't that interesting? You know, perhaps he'd heard those words from his dad a few times, you know, oh, you're too young. You don't know what you're doing. If David was clear enough about that, for that to be made into his prayers, and for Solomon then to say that himself, maybe it had landed a little hard in his heart. And interestingly, he turned it over to God, and God gave it, you know, that amazing blessing when he actually said, you know, yeah, what others have spoken over you does not need to stand if you bring it to me. I think that's pretty powerful.
That's good.
Yeah.
Now, Brian, quickly.
Yeah, I agree with Brooke very much on that. Sometimes some of us, when things get really deep, and this is where the verse I was going to share earlier, it gets, for a while, you give it over to the Lord, and sometimes it's still nagging, and you're saying, Lord, why aren't I just feeling this peace yet? And there's again, one of my favorite Psalms is 42, and I'll read the last verse. It says, why are you in despair, O my soul? Why are you disturbed within me? Hope in God, for once again, yet again, I will praise you, since his presence saves me, and he is my God. I'll just read that from the older verse. He says, why are you cast down, O my soul? And why are you disturbed within me? Hope in God, for I shall yet, at a later time, I will yet be able to praise you, who are the health of my countenance and my God. Like the man that said to the Lord, Lord, I believe, help my unbelief. That's sometimes our attitude in discouragement, in despair, in trouble. And the Lord understands that. He was human too when he was on earth, and he knows. He says we have a high priest who knows our feelings and yet was without sin. Yeah. So in that case, he knows that sometimes it will tarry, sometimes it will take a while, sometimes he wants us to wrestle with him. Through that discouragement, in the wrestling, we'll actually learn more, and we'll learn even deeper how much he uses these things like stumbling blocks to become stepping stones and barriers to become bridges.
Yeah, that's good.
Wow. That's cool.
Thanks, Brian. Yeah, speaking to ourselves, telling ourselves, "Come on, let's keep going." We see that there, but don't know if any of you saw Nicola McDermott won the silver medal in the high jump last night for Australia, and I think she said some really interesting things in an interview afterwards. I'll just read some of it for you, but it really shows us how she was able to overcome discouragement in her life. And she says, I am going after gold in Paris. I'm going to give it my 100%. And this little bit of encouragement, if it's just a small encouragement for one person watching today, anything is possible when you have faith, then I've done my job. So we see she wants to encourage others. Her focus is off herself onto trying to help others. That's a key, I think. And then she talks about as a teenager, she was outcast, but then she was welcomed into a faith community that loved her, and she remembered God's love and how it changed her from being a misfit into someone that was loved. And then she says, it gave me passion and a purpose. I think in 2017 was my big moment when it flicked the switch and I decided to pursue God over sport. And whatever comes with sport is a bonus. But I am already complete and perfect in love, regardless of it. That has allowed me to soar over every high jump bar and not be scared anymore because I'm loved. And that's the most important thing. What do you see there from what she said about how she was able to, keep going?
I think what a beautiful demonstration that our hope doesn't actually come from within ourselves. We all have that deep need to be loved and cherished and treasured. And God already says, yes, I love you. I treasure you. And so when we actually grab a hold of that truth and let that truth then determine what we chase after first, for her, chasing God first and actually saying, no, that is the source of my well-being. That is the source of my future. That is the source of my everything falling into place. It freed her. It gave her such liberty to.
Yes, the word, isn't it?
Yeah, it's amazing. It's beautiful.
And in essence, she was just confirming that old statement, saying, God, you are the wind beneath my wings.
Well,
and I will fly, and I will.
There you go. All right, another person that had some serious discouragement, David. We're going to have a look at a few verses, something that David faced and how he was able to overcome that discouragement now. David and his men reached Ziklag on the third day. Now the Amalekites had raided the Negev and Ziklag. They had attacked Ziklag and burned it, and they had taken captive the woman and everything else in it, both young and old. They killed none of them, but carried them off. As they went on their way, when David and his men reached Ziklag, they found it destroyed by fire, and their wives and sons and daughters taken captive. So David and his men wept aloud until they had no strength left to weep. David's two wives had been captured, Ahinoam of Jezreel and Abigail, the widow of Nabal of Carmel. David was greatly distressed because the men were talking of stoning him. Each one was bitter in spirit because of his sons and daughters. But David found strength in the Lord his God. All right, pretty good. Now I've just put a link in the chat so you can join this discussion after we've finished. I'll let you know when you can do that, but you can enter into this discussion too. But what do you see there? How was David able to overcome his discouragement?
Well, he definitely wasn't alone, was he? He lost two of his wives as well, and so I guess he could definitely identify with all of them, the sorrow and the pain that they were feeling, and are obviously deeply upset because they'd been out doing good things in some respects. Like they've been out trying to, you know, do what they felt was the right thing to do, and then to come home and find that devastation had happened. Like I can imagine how from that height of, you know, of that they would feel cheated, I suppose, by that. And so that, yeah, no strength left to weep suggests that it was hard. It was not easy.
It's funny how sometimes discouragement comes when we are doing something good. It's not, you know, we're trying our best, we're doing something positive in the world, and boom, discouragement hits, and we're like, what? It's very much not what we expect. It's nothing to do with what we deserve at all, is it?
Well, Paul was talking about that in Corinthians in my readings today. Again, like, you know, he's sort of saying the Corinthian church looked like they had, you know, it looked like they were reigning already, like they were already feeling really confident in their faith that, you know, God was, you know, it seemed like they felt like everything was on their side, you know, and he's like, but hang on a second, you know, I'm serving God too, and here is my situation, you know, I'm in threadbare clothes, barely able to stay warm, you know. So we so are tempted to look at the external circumstances and see others as our source of hope or encouragement, and not God. So,
and that's the case too, that the Bible does say that in this world, those that serve the Lord and have that commitment, they will suffer difficulty, trial, and testing, and that comes part of it, and that's something to temper and to prove our mettle, our faith, our strength in Him. The Lord uses that to and if we fail, we pick up, we go back to Him again, and we know He forgives us, we know He understands, and we keep on going. If we fall again, we get up, we keep on going in Him, and each time we grow stronger if we allow Him to let that temper our faith and our mettle.
Yeah. Any closing thoughts, Dieter? Just unmute there, Dieter.
I think he's got those busy ones.
No worries.
Yeah.
I think you got a few kids with you.
Yeah, I've just got my daughter in here, so
I loved.
Sorry.
There was another verse in the Bible this week that we were reading. It was like, and David returned to his home to bless his family. I think that's so you're just blessing your family. It's all good.
Yeah, I think I'm kind of stumped in some regards with discouragement, because you get discouraged, you get turned off, and you know, you just kind of go, well, is it worth it?
Yeah, great question.
You know, like,
yep.
Are we pushing through situations or circumstances that we've been there before and we've been discouraged? But if you take out of the context me and put what God says about us, then it makes it a bit clearer. You know, you're not going to go build your house on the beach, because obviously we know where that's going to end up. Unless it's a boat, then you're sweet. But you know, if the foundations are solid in Christ and our identity, and we know who we are in God is firm, then, you know, discouragement can come left, right, center in the size of a 2-year-old. But, you know, I think knowing who we are in God is probably the biggest key. And even when those storms come, like, just embrace them, man. I think there was a story that I read about a young girl who just got her learners, and she was with her dad driving, and it was a storm. And she's driving, and her dad said, no, let's go through the storm. But Dad, I'm scared. You know, I've got two V doubles coming down either side. What do? I can't turn left. I can't turn right. I'm stuck. And then the truck's pulled over and stopped. So she keeps driving through, and it gets to the other end of the storm. And then her dad says, "Stop the car, turn around and look." And so she stops, turns around and looks. And where are the two trucks still in the middle of the storm? So I think the moral of the story is that, you know, whatever we're going through, whenever we're feeling discouraged, like just keep pushing through, even if it hurts, even if it's rough, even if it's, you know, doesn't feel very, very nice. I personally know from discouragement that if I keep pushing through, and I'll see the other side of the storm, and then I get to see the rainbow that God's created, it's well worth it.
Yeah, that's good.
And-
Good way to
and-
end, Dita.
But you got, and you're not alone, you know.
Not alone.
And
Indeed.
that's the best part.
That's the beautiful promise that God promises that he will be with us in the storm. I think it's Psalm 18 or Psalm 19 says that he holds the bit of the storm like wild horses. He holds the reins, and the bit is in his mouth and in his control. So when we go through a storm, he is there beside us. He promises.
Yeah. All right. Well, I think if we've learnt one thing, discouragement, well, it can teach us, show us where our identity and our hopes are. And if maybe they're in things that are not where they should be. You know, success and achievement, they're not going to make us happy. We know that. Not going to bring us peace. And if our identity, like Nicola, the high jumper, said, if our identity is secure, then this discouragement doesn't have to shake us so much. And like Dita said, we can keep going. We can find the strength in God. Keep going, and then perhaps in the right areas, we'll see that success. And when we do, it won't be the main thing. It won't be, wow, pride and yeah, this is so fantastic. Look at me. It'll be, oh yeah, yep. I'm still the same person. I know I'm loved regardless. So
Yeah. So
you know,
good.
if you're feeling discouragement though, it's a real thing. It's hard. So feel free to reach out, send us a message on that number via our website, whatever, or you can jump on the call now in the chat. We're going to end this stream, but we'd be happy to keep chatting with you on this call. Just click that link if that's you. But thank you, guest. And
Thanks for having me, Tom.
hope to see everyone else throughout the week in social media, on a Zoom call somewhere. All right. Enjoy the last few hours of lockdown. Yeah.
Bye.
Bless you guys.